welcome. We want to thank you for being here. Your presence really makes this a special occasion for all of us. Let's bow our heads and we'll open in a word of prayer. Lord, we ask for your blessing on tonight's service. God, we are wanting to honor our seniors tonight, and may they know above all your love for them. May the Holy Spirit do a work in our midst tonight. Father, I know that you love us and care deeply about us. You so loved the world that you gave your only begotten Son. And so, Lord, we ask that hearts would be turned to you during this time, that you would bless our service, and we thank you for it. For it's in your name we pray. Amen. Please be seated. Thank you, Mr. Cordell. At this time, I would like to introduce our salutatorian, Anna Rowbottom.
Good evening. Mr. Mozingo, Dr. Messer, Mr. Welling, Dr. Kinder, Mr. Hersey, faculty, family, friends, and fellow graduates. I'm honored to be given the privilege to speak on behalf of the class of 2023 as we gather here to celebrate our accomplishments. I would like to give a special thanks to each one of those here today who have supported us throughout these years. Without your support and encouragement, we truly would not have made it. Many have spent months or even years dreaming of this day becoming a reality. Now it is finally here, and I will try to keep my part as short as possible. Some of you may know me as a quiet girl. I know you may be thinking, how is she speaking in front of hundreds of people when she barely spoke in class? Trust me, I could not even dream of standing before you all on such an important day. If I did dream, it would have been a nightmare relating to my fear of standing before you. You may also know me as a girl that dressed up like Moana won homecoming, or more recently, the girl that won Best Hair in Superlatives. These are only labels. My name is Ana Lucia Rowbottom. This is probably the first time a lot of you have even heard my name. Like me, many of you are simply known by some label based on either how you've dressed or something you've done, whether good or bad. For many years, we have been labeled as one of the smaller classes, at the same time being sought as a class that would not make it to graduation. The class that went through so many changes thanks to COVID. Although we are known by many labels, the one important label that has been omitted is our given name. While I was preparing this speech, a verse that came to mind is Isaiah 43:1. It says, "Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine." God has already chosen you to be a light in this dark world that only thrives on putting labels on things. Sitting in this room are future musicians, athletes, doctors, lawyers, actors, and even future professors. Instead of putting labels on us, remember our names. As we walk across the stage, remember our names, because this will not be the last time you hear of us. I would like to end by giving thanks to my parents for giving me my name. A name that I grew up hating because it was so long has now become one of the things I am most proud to have. To my friends, thank you for always being there when I need you the most. I love you all. Finally, to the class of 2023, I challenge you to be you and not live by the labels people have placed over you. Always remember the name you are going to hear called as you walk across the stage. And as one classmate always says, go be great. Thank you.
This time I have a few verses for our graduating class. The first comes from the book of Joshua, chapter 1, and verse number 8 and 9. This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. Have not I commanded thee, be strong and of a good courage. Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed, for the Lord thy God is with thee whithersoever thou goest. Our next verses come from the book of Romans, chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. And then in Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 through 8. Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be known unto God. And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. And our last reading comes from the book of Numbers, chapter 6, verses 24 through 26. The Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. The Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. And it is my distinct honor at this time to introduce our class valedictorian, Miss Lauren Sweat.
Good evening, Mr. Mozingo, Dr. Messer, Mr. Welling, Dr. Kinder, Mr. Hersey, faculty, staff, guests, and the class of 2023. You all look amazing in your funny hats. My name is Lauren Sweat, and if you don't know me, well, we went to high school together. I want to start by taking a moment to thank everyone who helped make today possible. We appreciate the time that our instructors, teachers, and administrators have dedicated to ensuring our success. In addition, I want to thank Dunkin' Donuts for giving me the energy I needed to finish this speech at the last minute. Most importantly, I want to express my gratitude to my parents for never giving up on me and always standing by me, especially on the days when I gave up on myself. Congratulations, seniors, we did it. It feels like the start of freshman year was yesterday. Our first class, our first football game, our first state championship, our second state championship, our third state, oh wait, that didn't happen. Since those first moments, we have developed tremendously as a class and as individuals. Unlike every other graduating class at Trinity Christian Academy, ours is special. Each one of us had various and distinctive experiences while we were here. And thanks to our education, we now have the chance to forge distinctive future paths as well. While we increased our knowledge and skills, there was one question that influenced our actions and judgments over the last 4 years. What do you want to be when you grow up? We used to enjoy hearing this question when we were young. There was no tension or stress associated with it. Some of us dreamed of becoming astronauts, surgeons, singers, movie stars, or even the next president. Now when someone asks this question, we have to be able to explain our life goals. In addition, this question instills in us the belief that who we are is determined by what we achieve. For a while, my identity was defined by what I could put on my college transcript. Whether it was my involvement in student government or my role as team captain, if it couldn't be listed, it had no value. But as I reflect back on my senior year and the rest of my high school experience, I discovered that the best experiences I had at Trinity were attending sports games, prom, and pep rallies, none of which enhanced my college application. But most importantly, when I think about the best moments I had at Trinity, it was being able to meet and grow with you all. So class of 2023, I'm challenging you to reflect and reevaluate the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? And instead ask, who do you want to be when you grow up? By reframing the question, we alter its meaning so that it now centers on our perceptions of ourselves rather than our achievements. This implies that neither our prior identities nor our past actions have any bearing on the present. In this world, there is very little we can control. However, what we can control is who we are and what our values consist of. I want you all to know that regardless of where you've come from, what classes you have taken, and what accomplishments you have achieved, if you work hard for what you want and stay true to your values, you have the same chance to succeed as the person sitting right next to you. When you walk out these doors today, you are beginning the next chapter of your life with a fresh start. It is important to remember that success is not just about achieving your goals, but also about the journey and the person you become along the way. Embrace challenge and failures as opportunities for growth and continue to strive towards your dreams with determination and perseverance. As I come to a close, I want to leave you all with a quote by a famous writer and television host. Follow your passions, stay true to yourself. Never follow someone else's path unless you're in the woods and you're lost, and you see a path. Then by all means, please follow that. Once again, congratulations, class of 2023.
Thank you, Voices in Praise. Let's give them another hand. That was just awesome. Good job. We've been able to enjoy your performances all year. So, class of 23, welcome to the 50th Commencement. I'm David Welling, the head of school, and on behalf of TCA, I want to welcome all the families, teachers, administration, board members, and all the special guests. I really appreciate you making Trinity your school home and your school of choice. It's been an absolute honor serving this class. I'd like to take a moment just to recognize two groups, and the first one I think is kind of obvious, but the administrative team, and I know it's always dangerous to name names, but Group 1, Dr. Kinder, Lieutenant Colonel Martin Hersey, retired, Mrs. Gaines, and our academic dean, and of course all of our upper division teachers who have helped these seniors navigate their final years here in high school. Let's give them a round of applause. The second group should be really obvious, but I don't see this done in many graduation ceremonies, but I'd like our senior class to stand up, and I'd like you to turn around to where you think your family might be. Good luck with that. And I want you... Okay. Do you hear that? Do you hear that enthusiasm? That, what you hear and what you see right there is the village that has supported you. And right now, I'd like you to honor, with your applause, seniors, the village that has supported you. Thank you, seniors. You may be seated. The class of 23 graduates have been accepted to many different universities and colleges throughout Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and even France. And I think that's because we have 3 international students in our midst. 14 of our graduates you see wearing the red cords have attended TCA since kindergarten. These next 5 statistics all translate into money savings for you as you take the next step into college and university. If you wonder whose families those are, they're the ones with the biggest grins as they leave here tonight. Class of 23 has been awarded almost $1 million of academic and athletic scholarships. Just under half of our graduates have participated in the dual enrollment program. And if you don't know what that is, that saves you a lot of money. 5 of our students have completed 60 college credit hours to earn FSCJ's Associate of Arts degree. So this is actually their second graduation. 3 of our students qualified for the Bright Futures Florida Academic Scholarship, and 10 of our students have qualified for the Bright Futures Florida Medallion Scholarship. You know, at times like these, I kind of have this quirky habit of trying to think of a word that captures the moment in a single word, captures the general attitude or emotion that most of us might be feeling right now. And I struggled a little bit with this one, but I came up with this word. Just bear with me for about 2 minutes and I'm done. The word I came up with was anticipation. It's a time full of wonder and hope, like both of the speeches we've just heard. And questions like this: am I ready? What am I hoping for? How do I think things are going to turn out? Will I meet everybody's expectations? Are my parents' expectations the same as mine? Do they need to be? Will my friendships last? All of these things are going through the minds of our graduates here as they think of what's next. It's a time of anticipation. At the end of anything worth thinking about, and at the end of anything worth worrying about or anticipating, you will always find God. He will answer every worry and keep every promise. God knows you by name. He knows your past, He knows your present, and He knows your future. and this might be unbelievable, but he loves you more than everybody in this room combined. Follow hard after God to pursue the answers to life's most important questions. You won't be disappointed if you let God be the author and the perfecter of your faith and your life. Before I sit down, I'd like to say something about the man who follows me in the program. Among many other roles and titles here at Trinity, Dr. Tom Messer is a TCA board president and has been a very active and engaged board member, for which I am deeply appreciative. He absolutely loves Trinity. But let me tell you the little secret. Trinity Christian Academy is his favorite. Or do you say that to all the ministries? Please help me welcome our senior pastor, Dr. Tom Messer.
That's subtle, very kind. That sounds a little bit like what my grandkids say to me, and they all think that they're my favorite as well. So I get that. Just a couple quick housekeeping things. So Anna and Lauren, am I correct that both of you were in Mrs. Beth Yerby's kindergarten class when you were? That's pretty amazing. She was at my house when I was walking out the door, and I love the fact that our kindergarten and our lower division teachers and administrators feel as much affinity for these kids as our upper division teachers do. What a great accomplishment. And that is true. The individual stories of these 74 seniors tonight, each one has a story that is worth telling and a story that we're excited to see live out. 1967, Trinity Baptist Church was, I guess, in many ways, a neighborhood church. I was 8 years old at the time, and I lived in a completely different state, but we were a neighborhood church on what is now fairly much an inner city piece of property in downtown Jacksonville. The church got a burden to do something about education. Some of you are not old enough to know this, but the 60s were a time of cultural upheaval in many different ways. And our church at the time determined that one of the ways to make a difference was to start a Christian school. And we are now decades into that journey. And I do think it's one of the most rewarding things that we've ever invested ourselves in. And we are privileged to have the Academy as such a signature part of what we do here at our church. We are, and not only are, but we aspire to be, in even greater ways, a Christian educational institution that embraces biblical values and that is saturated with gospel truth in a way that lives out what Mr. Welling so eloquently pointed out and you embrace, that it's not just parents that make a difference in the lives of their kids. It's not just churches that make a difference in the lives of their kids. It's not just communities. It takes the school, the home, the church, and the community to come together. And when they do, we culminate in nights like this when we get ready to send out young people who we believe are equipped to face life with poise and grace, with conviction and courage to go out into a world where they can actually make a difference. And Trinity Christian Academy graduates are doing that, not just here in Jacksonville, but literally all around the world. I run into people in the most unique places that tell their story and their connection. In fact, tonight, there's a number of you who are alumnus of Trinity Christian Academy. If you are an alumni of our school, would you stand for a moment? We'd like to recognize you, and let's give each of them a hand if we would. The rest of us who are not Trinity Christian Academy graduates are in deficit, and we've had to spend all of our life trying to catch up. This is an unprecedented time. If the 60s were a time of cultural upheaval, I think that's also true of the 2020s. And we are tonight encouraged by what is happening in Christian education. And we appreciate so much the Florida State Legislature and Governor DeSantis in establishing a tremendous move towards school choice in the state of Florida. I know for some of you, you're probably wishing this happened earlier, and it could have helped me a lot earlier down the road. We think it gives more access to more children and to more families to choose the school of their choice. And we actually think it's good for private education, it's good for public education, and we think it is also good for Christian education. I do want to say that in this season, we have talked a lot at Trinity Ministries. We've talked a lot about it in each of our individual ministries, and very specifically under Mr. Welling's leadership at the Academy. We've talked about what does it take for us to be a school that is sustainable in the future, a school that is prepared and equipped should Jesus tarry his coming to do 25 and 30 and 40 years from now what we're doing today. We launched a Conqueror Fund recently, and we have invited our friends and families and supporters to come alongside the school and help us in what we believe are 5 really important initiatives: a commitment to a Christian education, a Christ-first approach to teaching young people, a school that has academic excellence. You've heard that tonight, and you will hear that throughout your association with the school. You've seen it in our students in the band and in the choir that's committed to fine arts. And then, if you know anything about Trinity Christian Academy, it's also a commitment to first-in-class athletics. And accompanied with that, we are now a campus. We moved out here from the inner city in 1972. So we've been in this facility now since that time, 51 years. And we need to be constantly upgrading, updating, and modernize facilities. If you want to have a part in that, we'd love to talk to you and have you come alongside and be part of what we're doing. It's really a privilege for me to introduce our commencement speaker, Travis Mozingo. Travis is a 1992 graduate of Trinity Christian Academy. His dad, who went home to be with the Lord several years ago, and his mom, who taught at our academy and who I have half a mind to make come up here on the platform tonight just to absolutely mortify her to the nth degree, are just wonderful, wonderful people. You will not meet better people that God has put on the face of this earth. His mom poured her heart and soul into the children here at Trinity in ways that I could not describe to you. Travis's mom and dad raised 3 really great kids. I will not tell you which of the 3 are my favorite. My wife probably has 1, and I probably have 2, but we won't say that. But Travis has been married to his wife, Beth, for 25 years. They have 3 children, Madeline, McKenna, and Maddox. He graduated from Maranatha Baptist University in 1997 with a Bachelor's of Science in Secondary Education. He earned his Master of Arts in U.S. History from Western Illinois University. What I think makes Travis a unique choice to speak to our students is not only was he involved here as a model student at Trinity Christian Academy, but he's been a high school teacher and football coach for the past 22 years at Christian Academy in Knoxville, Tennessee. Concurrently with that, he serves as adjunct professor at Bryan College. This spring, Travis accepted a position to coach on the staff at Maryville College in Maryville, Tennessee, and he continues to teach at Christian Academy of Knoxville. He is the kind of example that we want all of our students to be. He serves Jesus Christ with a pure heart and a heart that is passionate about the gospel of Jesus Christ. Would you welcome Travis Mozingo as he comes to speak tonight?
Appreciate you, buddy. Well, here we go. I don't know, it was probably 2 months ago. Dr. Kinder, he used to be Mr. Kinder to me, but now he's Dr. Kinder. Dr. Kinder reached out to me and he sent me an email and said, hey, you want to do this? And I immediately thought that I must be the 88th person on the list of 87 people that they've reached out to. So anyway, here I am and there you are. So let's talk just for a few minutes tonight. It is an honor and a privilege. I do appreciate Dr. Messer and just the impact he's had on my life over the last few decades, and Mr. Kinder as well. So I don't take this lightly. I'm excited to talk to you seniors tonight especially, and invite these other people to listen in on our conversation. So let's get going. Like Tom said, my history at TCA goes back to the late 1970s. I started kindergarten over here with Miss Perkins, and then I moved over to the elementary building not long after that, and spent some time over there. Then I went over to the junior high, is what we call it, junior high building, and Mr. Kinder was actually my science teacher, believe it or not. That was way back when. And then a few years after that, I moved over to the high school over here at Trinity. And my junior year here, I played football at Trinity, and Tom was the football coach, believe it or not. That's how long ago this goes back. And at the end of my junior year, they bring a guy over named Verlin Dormany, and I meet this guy, and I'm going into my senior year of high school, and I've been at Trinity my whole life and played football at Trinity my whole life and all that kind of stuff. And meet Verlin, and he's got this dark hair. I don't even know if he's here tonight. Dark hair, dark mustache. This is pre-goatee days. And excited about football season and that sort of thing. And then I find out that Coach Dormany is going to also be the computer teacher. So Verlin Dormany, I need you to use your imagination here. Verlin Dormany, football coach, computer teacher. Needless to say, I'm still clueless on computers, and he's a much better football coach than he is computer teacher. And I think everybody agrees with me on that. So anyway, that's how far back I go into Trinity. Dr. Messer mentioned my mom. She taught here for nearly 3 decades at Trinity. My sister currently teaches here. My sister graduated from here. My brother graduated from here. My sister-in-law graduated from here. Tonight, my niece, Molly, somewhere down here, she's going to graduate. So anyway, needless to say, my history at Trinity and my connections go far back, and I am proud of them. I know in 2023, it's easy to be critical of organizations and people as you look back and we kind of twist, revise things in our mind. But I'm proud to be a Trinity alumni, and I'm proud to be back here to share a few words with you guys tonight. I currently teach dual enrollment U.S. history and contemporary issues at the Christian Academy of Knoxville, and then I coach outside linebackers at Maryville College. So you're hearing from a history teacher and a football coach tonight, and that's the only thing I really know how to do well. I've been on the sidelines and I've been in the classroom for 22 years, and that's who I am. I got a couple things I want to share with these seniors tonight. If the rest of you would like to listen in and eavesdrop on those things, I invite you to do that. I'm going to go as quickly as I can, but try to make it as meaningful as I can. Seniors, I was wrestling with what I wanted to say to you guys tonight, and then I realized back in 1992, I was over in the gymnasium. Michael Markham sat on one side of me, and Roxanne O'Berry sat on the other side of me, and that's the only things I really remember. I don't remember who stood up here. My mom asked me this morning, who spoke at your commencement exercise, and I said, I have no idea. Sorry, ladies, I don't know who the Valedictorian or the Salutatorian was either. All I know is that I was going to graduation that night, and I had to get up the next morning and go down to the Winn-Dixie on Normandy Boulevard and bag groceries that day. So that's all I really remember about that. So thinking back on that, I really don't have a whole lot of pressure on me tonight. If you're not going to remember this anyway in 2 or 3 days. Here we go. I drove 9 hours yesterday, got in early this morning, went over and stayed at my mom's house with my family, and they built some time into the time slot, and so anyway, here we go. I'm going to share a few thoughts with you, and hopefully it won't be quite as forgettable as my graduation was. I'd like to start with a question for you guys from the poet Mary Oliver, and she said this in some of her writings. She said, tell me, and I'm asking you this, seniors, tell me what it is that you plan to do with your one precious life. And I'd like to follow that up with this other question. How do you suppose you'll be successful at that? How do you suppose you'll accomplish this plan for your one precious life? Many of you would probably respond with something, well, I just want to be successful. And each of us have these different definitions of success. And if I ask all 74 of you what your definition of success is, you'd probably give me some variation, maybe some similar threads would run through it, but we'd all have our own definition. And so this very varied response and definition of success leaves it really vague. And so when you ask somebody, what does it take to be successful in terms of the world's view of what success is, I came across this and said it's much like asking which ingredient makes a recipe taste good. It's not any single ingredient. It's a combination of many ingredients in the right proportion and in the right order. And the absence of any of these ingredients would ruin the mixture. Regardless of your personal definition of success, there's one common ingredient that I want to leave you with, and this is a theme and a thread that I want to weave through the next few minutes that we spend together. If you want true, meaningful success in life, what we would say transition from success into significant, it's going to take grit. Grit is the difference. Grit is the hack. We talk about what's this life hack or whatever. In your life, in the future, as you move forward, it's going to be grit. Grit's been defined as perseverance towards and passion for long-term goals. And I hear Lauren talking about some of these things when she was speaking. I couldn't help but just appreciate the similarities there. Grit is this idea of consistency over intensity. It's a marathon view of your life versus a series of short sprints. Grit's often difficult to measure. And how can you know if you're a gritty person or a person that has grit or if somebody else does as well? So years ago, what they did is there was a researcher named Angela Duckworth. And Angela Duckworth went and she was asking herself this question. She was in education, but she had this question that she kept coming across, why certain students were successful and other students were not successful. So what was her idea? What was her plan? She went to the United States Military Academy at West Point. And while she was there, they wanted to understand and seek what made some individuals who seemed to be equal in achievement successful while others in an identical environment seemed to fail. The reason for this is that West Point, if you're not familiar with this, is incredibly difficult and extremely selective. For West Point acceptance, I did a Google search like we talked about earlier and came across this. Excellent grades, exceptional ACT and SAT scores, outstanding letters of recommendation. You have to have community service to get into West Point. You have to have a leadership profile. You have to be athletic. You have to pass a physical fitness test to get into West Point. You have to have medical qualifications that have to be passed as well. Beyond that, there's stringent interviews with members of the armed forces, specifically the Army. And to top it all off, if all of those things weren't enough, to get into West Point, you've got to get a member of Congress to write you a recommendation. Needless to say, at West Point, they get the best of the best. But here's the question that Angela Duckworth came across. How is it at West Point, where everybody seems to be a high achiever, how is it that 19%, nearly 1 in 5 of these cadets who show up at West Point, why do they quit? They've got the best grades in their class. Okay, they're like the gals down here. They've got the most athletic. Okay, they check all the boxes. So how in the world can 1 in 5 of these West Point cadets quit? How can they walk away from a scholarship that's valued at $250,000 apiece? So the researchers realized this, that it was grit was one of the top predictors of success at West Point. They realized this, that grit was more important than your IQ, than your intelligence, more important than your SAT scores. Grit was more important than your athleticism. Grit was more important than self-control. Grit was more important than talent. And grit was more important than your just general conscientiousness of who you are. The one personal quality that is shared by the most prominent leaders in every single field, regardless of what it is this idea of grit. It's stamina. It's when disappointment and boredom creep in, signals to some people that it's time to walk away. Whereas with gritty individuals, it stays the course. With gritty individuals, their sustained commitment to their ambitions and goals is exceptional, and it leads to their eventual success. And as I was sitting over here just a few moments ago, I started thinking, man, I can tell these guys about West Point and kind of explain to them the high rigor that it takes to get into West Point. And I glanced down at this little program here that we got, and it's got everyone's name in it. And I started noticing some of these names are in italics, and some of them have stars by them, and some of them are bold. The realization was this as I sat there. It doesn't matter whether your name's in bold, whether you've got 3 stars by your name, 2 stars, whether you've got one of those that's, 3 stars, italics, bold, and it's got everything, and you've got a bunch of medals and all the cords and all the ribbons. Those aren't the number one predictor of your success in life. The number one predictor of your success in life, scientifically proven, is grit. Are you willing to persevere, and are you willing to have passion towards long-term goals? And when it gets difficult, do you just walk away, or do you keep pushing? The Bible's full of examples of grit. You look back in the Old Testament, and you've got Noah, who's working on the ark for decades. You look at Jacob, who's going to work for 20 years for an inheritance from his uncle Laban. You go to Joseph and see that his brothers sell him into slavery, and then he goes and he finds himself in prison after that before God finally uses him. You look at Moses in the Old Testament in the book of Exodus, and he leads the Israelites for 40 years wandering. That's grit. Having grit means pushing and sticking with it just a little bit longer. I'd like to leave you with 3 quick keys to being a gritty individual. Not dancing, not doing the gritty, but being gritty, just so we're clear on that. All right, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. The next phase of your life, whether you're going to college, whether you're going to go to the military, whether you're going to just join the workforce, being an individual of grit is going to be something that I want to challenge you with. First of all, you've got to understand about grit, it has to be driven by love. Okay? If you don't love it, whatever it happens to be for your life, you'll never be good at it. The football tradition at Trinity is strong, and it's well known nationwide. I know I coach in the state of Tennessee, and I talk to college recruiters all the time, and now I work at a college, and everybody knows who Trinity Christian Academy is. I talk to guys all the time. They've come a long way from Verlin's first season when he had guys like me out there trying to play, and that's probably why we only won 3 games, to be honest with you. So don't make fun of not winning 3 state championships. I'm just saying, all right? Back in the day, we just won 3 games. So anyway, Verlin's out there, and he's come a long way since my days, right? And some of you who've earned football scholarships and other scholarships in certain endeavors, you understand that loving the game, all right, is something that's a cliche that's thrown around, but the realization is this: if you don't love it, you'll never be willing to work when things get difficult. Galatians chapter 6 and verse 9 says, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we'll reap if we do not give up." If you want to be an individual of grit, you must show up daily, do the work, driven by love. Number 2, your grit must be inspired by vision and a sense of purpose. Many times the goals that you've put for yourself that Lauren talked about, these goals are going to be blurry. This vision is going to get you through these difficult times. When things get challenging, and they inevitably will, it'll be grit that allows you to pursue this. Knowing your purpose, knowing your why will keep you inspired on days when you feel like quitting. Years ago, I read the book Tribe of Mentors by Timothy Ferriss, and in this book, he talks to other successful individuals, and he asks them, these are individuals who are successful in the military, they're successful in business, they're successful in medicine, all over. And he asked these guys in this survey that he did, what's one book that you give as a gift or that has impacted and influenced you? And the one book, as I'm reading this book, the one book that keeps creeping up, that's repeatedly suggested, is this book written by a fellow named Viktor Frankl. And he writes this book called Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl writes Man's Search for Meaning in 1946 following World War II. I told you I'm a history teacher, so you know we already talked football, and now we got to talk a little bit of history here, so bear with me. Man's Search for Meaning is written by Viktor Frankl. It's by the terms of the Library of Congress, it's one of the most influential books that's ever been written. It's been translated into 52 different languages. It's sold over 16 million copies. Needless to say, it's a good book. I've read it several times. Anyway, back to Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl is a unique individual. He's going to be a Jew who is going to be in the Nazi death camps, first at Auschwitz and later at Dachau. And Viktor Frankl, his unusual occupation is this, and wrap your mind around this if you could for just a minute. He is a psychiatrist. And if you don't know what a psychiatrist is, it's somebody who studies, and it's a doctor, it's a medical doctor, that studies and investigates mental health, as well as emotional and behaviors that are connected to that. So you've got to understand, for Viktor Frankl, he's going to go into a concentration camp, into a death camp eventually, okay? And he is a psychiatrist. He studies these individuals, these fellow prisoners that he's in there. And he has this question as he spends months and months and months in these 2 different concentration camps. How is it that certain people give up, just walk away? It's obviously a difficult and a struggle to survive a Nazi death camp for a variety of environmental reasons. But it wasn't always the case, and he realized this. So as a psychiatrist, to help kind of deal with his own situation, he begins to study these fellow inmates. And he realizes that the difference between those who give up and just walk away and those who say they're going to stick with it just a little bit longer is they have this meaning that they identify with. They have a long-term goal. For Viktor Frankl, and I was talking to someone earlier today about this topic, for Viktor Frankl, his was his wife. His wife is going to die later in another concentration camp. His mother and father will both die in a concentration camp. His son will also die in a concentration camp. But for Viktor Frankl, what keeps him alive is this search for meaning. He says this: in these death camps where death was so prevalent and survivors were so few, here's what he says: man's search for meaning is the primary motivation in his life. This meaning is unique and is specific, that it must be and can be fulfilled by him alone. I need you 74 seniors to understand this. There's a specific task, and I'm not sure what it is, but there's a specific task that God has put each one of you here to accomplish, and no one else in this room can accomplish it. Philippians chapter 1, verse 6 says, I'm sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion. If you know your purpose and if you know your why, you'll find a rewarding life is yours. And you need to remember that your purpose is always greater than your circumstances and the things that are contradicting this goal. If you want to be a person of grit, know your why, know your purpose, and pursue it. Here we go, finally. I told you I had 3 things for you. The first thing is you got to do what you love. Second thing is you got to be inspired with vision and purpose. And the third thing is this right here. You've got to be fueled with a strong desire to prove yourself. Several years ago, I was the head football coach at the Christian Academy of Knoxville, and honestly, it's real similar to Trinity. We've got about 100 kids in every grade, so it's a high school of about 400 kids. We got a football team that carries about 50 or 60 players, so there's a lot of parallels that some of you guys understand. And so we went into the season with some pretty high expectations, just like anybody that plays football here at Trinity. And we were coming off an 8-3 season the year before, and of that season, we graduated 4 seniors. So we felt like, man, the bulk of our roster's coming back. Of those 4 seniors, one of them was a kicker, so we felt like, man, I mean, he's not even really a football player. So let's just go ahead and say we only lost 3 seniors. I'm just being honest. We're bringing back players on offense and defense. And one thing that our players were really frustrated with, and I know some of you athletes, whether you play football or other things, didn't feel like they were really getting any appreciation from the local Knoxville press, from the social media, from the newspapers, from the televisions. And they were really frustrated with this. They knew we were talented, and our players had this disrespected feeling about it. And obviously, it really doesn't matter what the local press thinks or whether they predict you to lose every week. The reality is you got to go play the games on Friday night. So we started our season off, and we were doing really well, and we got to about game 5 or so, and we had beaten a couple of bigger private schools. We'd beaten some big public schools outside of Knoxville and having a lot of success and really starting to make a little bit of noise, but nobody recognized that. Our coaching staff immediately got together about midway through the season. They was like, what are we going to do with these kids? I mean, they feel like, man, they're being slept on, I think is what you would hear them say. They felt like nobody was paying attention. And so we kind of used this oversight by the local media to kind of channel that frustration back to what we wanted. And this mantra kind of just was organic, and it kind of hatched itself in our locker room one day, that you've got to make them believe. And it was just that simple. And we go into game 6, and it's the idea of make them believe. When we get into game 7, 8, 9, you got to make them believe. We go into the 10th game of the season. We're 9-0, and we're going to be actually competing against our rival school, which is about a quarter of a mile down the road from our school. So it's not only is it a rival school because they're in our region, but it's also a rival school because they're literally right down the street from us. We show up at pregame, and every newspaper in town is there. All the local media outlets are there. The televisions, social media, everything. Everyone's there. And this whole mindset for our players was this idea of make them believe. And so we get together in our pregame, and you know how it is in pregame in a football locker room, what it's like. And there's a little bit of anxiety. There's a little bit of excitement, and there's a whole lot of passion. So we're 9-0. We're playing our biggest rival, and we're finally feel like we're getting recognized for this. And our players, it's interesting because if you're at the right spot with your team, they don't need a pep talk on a Friday night. They handle their business. And to hear them talk about, we got to go out there and make them believe. We go on to win that game, and it's a big deal, and we win the region, and we're undefeated and this and that, first time in school history, so on and so forth. But it's this idea of make them believe, and this idea and this desire to make sure that we proved ourselves. In life, you're going to have those people who doubt you, they ignore you. That's perfect. That's your chance and your opportunity to make them believe. James chapter 1 and verses 2 through 4, paraphrased, says this: consider it joy whenever you face trials, but let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing. Class of 2023, whatever you do in life to be successful and to transition that into significance, it's going to take grit. Everything in your life that's meaningful will take grit. I need you to remember these three things. You got to love what you do. That's going to get you through those difficult times. Number 2, you got to have that inspiration for a vision, all right, and a purpose. You got to remember your why. Why is it that I'm doing what I'm doing? And number 3, some days you just got to have a strong desire to prove yourself. Some days you just got to make them believe. So class of 2023, as you go from here, never to be assembled like this again. I think it was interesting as I was putting this together, I thought there are people from 1992, 30 years ago, that the last time I saw their face, their flesh and blood, was at that graduation. So as you sit here tonight knowing that some of the individuals that you're never gonna see them again, just that's the way life is sometimes. I'm going to ask you this question that I started with, and I'd like you to reflect on it. Tell me what it is that you plan to do with your one precious life. Whatever it is, I assure you, if it's meaningful, if it's worthwhile, if it's significant, it's going to require grit. It's going to require passion and perseverance for long-term goals. Thank you for your time. I pray that God richly blesses the class of 2023. That work?
Thank you, Travis. What a great job, and I'll remember you. At this time, I'd like for our ladies ensemble to make their way to the platform. Last week, we performed Little Women, and our seniors from that play sang this song. And so let me invite them to come to the platform. Cheryl Hinton, Esther Pace, Lily Doré, Molly Swinson, and Jaylee Crow are going to sing from Little Women, the musical, Some Things Are Meant to Be.
Let's pretend we're riding on a kite. Let's imagine we're flying through the air. We'll ascend until we're out of sight. Light as paper, we'll soar.
Let's be wild, high above the sand. Feel the wind, the world at our command.
Let's enjoy the view and never laugh. Floating far from the shore. Some things are meant to be. The clouds moving fast and free. The sun on a silver sea. A sky that's bright and blue. And some things will never end. The thrill of our magic ride. The love that I feel inside for you. We'll fly high beyond the break of day. Sleep on stardust and dine on bits of moon. You and I will find the Milky Way. We'll be mad and explore. We'll recline, locked up on the breeze.
Door to
Bell, still on with windy ease. As the day
Seniors, please stand. You have worked hard and you've shown a lot of resilience, evidenced by your presence here tonight. It's not been easy. On behalf of the faculty and staff of Trinity, I commend you for your accomplishments. Well done. Pastor Messer, Mr. Welling, it's my distinct pleasure and honor to present to you the class of 2023. They have fulfilled the high school requirements and are at hand to receive their diplomas. Seniors, as your name is called, please come forward to receive your diploma.
Lauren Elizabeth Sweat. Anna Lucia Rowbottom. Chloe Nicole Baker. Haran Gaitashu Bile. Seth Bialik. Cooper Christopher Brown. Desiree Janiyah Brown. Mackay Joshua Burton. Brianna Ashlyn Bussey. Samuel J. W. Byers. Aiden James Calaneson. Luca Christopher Cole. Alyssa Lee Cruz. Jaylee Lillian Crow. Yoon Natwoy Dang. Logan Randall Densler. Mason Jamar Davis. Ray Davis III. Gage Caden Denby. Elizabeth Rose DeStefano. Lily Ann Doré. Caleb Seth Eden. Morgan Claire Elkin. Monet Trayell Elliott. Rosemani Flores. Maxime Gerbod. William Reagan Gibbs. Timothy Harris Glidden. Harold Trey Roland Goggins III. Grace Gracialny. Leonie Pepita Halbauer. Danya Hema. Sherelle Erica Hinton. Caitlin Diane Horn. Nolan Michael Jean-Pierre. Dorian Jarrell Lang Cleveland. Shemaya Raven Erica Lewis. Daniel Kent Luckett Jr. Hotia Sky Leo. Chelsea May McLeod. Christian Jean Markham. Ethan Sebastian Massey. Tamarian Prosper McCray. Jacob Christopher Miller. Jeremiah T. Mills. Chase Michael Minix. Landon Skylar Moore. Isaac Abraham Newman. Coy Viet Wen. Javon William Nobles. Noah Harry Nugent. Yuki Okubo. Esther Carice Pace. Mendora Sue Patat. Colby Mason Price. Alexis Jaden Renfro. Bailey Catherine Richburg. Ainsley Robbins. Noah Monroe Roberts. Olivia Grace Robertson. Joshua Nashon Robinson. Jakari Divalone Sanius. Sienna Allison Lee Smith. Molly Elizabeth Swinson. Haley Grace Terrell. Patricia Lynn Thomas. Ruben Torres Perez. Andres S. Vasquez. Victoria Velasquez. Jace Alexander Walker. Trayon Lamel Webb. Joshua Emery Williams. Olivia Alexandria Michaela Williams. Malachi Amos Young.
Okay, seniors, stand for me. Seniors, stand up. I present to you the class of 2023. Let's give them a hand. Let me have everybody stand. I'm going to pray. When I am done, we will do our recessional and march out. Let's pray. Lord, our hearts are filled with gratitude to you. I ask you to bless each of these seniors as they step into the next phase of their lives. You and you alone are able to keep them. I commend them to you in the word of your grace. May each find your will for his or her life and do it. Just bless them in a special way, for it's in your name we pray. Amen.
right.